Natalie D. 320,000 students have experienced gun violence while at school, 188 of those lives being lost. John Cox, a graduate of the Florida College of Journalism, stated this in the Washington Post, published in October of 2022. Everyone in this room has thought about what we would do if there were to be a threat at the school. School resource officers can provide a feeling of safety, and they should be required to be in every school. First, I will talk about the effectiveness of school resource officers. Then I will talk about some statistics of school violence. And finally, I will talk about how school resource officers have been used in our school. School violence is something that seems to be occurring always, and we need to put a stop to it. An SRO is the abbreviation for a school resource officer. William Cooper, who has a master's degree in science and sociology, stated in his dissertation published by Mississippi State in May of 2020 that the main role of school resource officer is to be a community-oriented law enforcement trained to protect and serve in schools. School resource officers were first implemented in the 1950s in Flint, Michigan. Tiana Delvin, who has a PhD in criminology, stated in the Journal of School Violence published in 2021 that leading up to now, only 30% of elementary school and 58% of high schools have a school resource officer employed. Recently, 4 interviews were conducted at different high schools with staff, administration, and students about their school resource officers, all of which who felt that they were effective. Denise Gottfredson, a professor in the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology, stated in the journal Criminology and Public Policy, published in July of 22, that as of right now, only 33% of schools across the U.S. have a school resource officer employed. That leaves the other 77% at risk for something of happening. Now that we've talked a little bit about the background of school resource officers, let's talk about what they are needed for. The statistics of school violence is rather disturbing, considering that this is where we spend most of our time. Melvin Livingston, who has a PhD in behavioral science and health education, stated in the journal Adolescent Health, published in December of 2018, that most school shootings happen in areas that were predominantly white, in rural communities, and the shooter was over 20 years of age. Handguns were reported to be the most commonly used gun because of their dimension and ability to be hidden. Interestingly enough, though, shotguns and rifles recorded the most fatalities. Although they are not as easily hidden and they are bigger, they are more powerful and can do more damage. One of the many safety precautions that we've implemented is ALICE: alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. This is becoming a more practiced drill because of the rise in school shootings. We practice this by evacuating the building and going to our safe location at the school, or barricading up our doors in the classroom and preparing for when the threat were to enter the room. It's scary to think about, but important to have a plan and some sort of protection. Thankfully, we have an SRO at Sabrota Mazeppa. Officer Curdy is our school resource officer. I feel he has done an effective job in enforcing safety among the students and slowing the crime rate. Although we haven't had any real threats at our school, we do need to be prepared if something were to ever happen. Now that I've talked about the effectiveness of school resource officers, some statistics of school violence, and how school resource officers have been used in our school, I hope the severity of this issue is clear. School resource officers can provide a feeling of safety, and they should be required to be in every school. If every school had an SRO, hopefully those 188 lives would no longer be a statistic.
404. Thank you. 1, 2, 3.